Hello ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Webway Gates, and here we are looking at Gladius's new and fresh DLC. That's right, Aeldari are upon us, and although I'm one of the 40k players that would traditionally dislike the Aeldari just simply for being what they are, in this game I wanted to cover and talk about them in a little video, even though I've done a few live streams to briefly give you a little bit of an introduction to them, as well as going over why I actually think they're one of the more interesting factions to play currently. Now, in order to sell this faction to you, I think we should start with the mechanics that make them unique. If we look at the resources in the top left, you'll see we get the same standard resources that many other factions have, and that certainly is not one of the things that makes this faction any different. What they do have, however, are Webway Gates. And you'll notice if you play the game now that there will be Webway Gates all over the darn place. Now you can take them over for either 10, 5, 15, depends on the speed you're playing, but you can take them over for a small amount of influence. Now after doing so, you can effectively build a new base on them. The first base in a standard speed will cost you 60 and 60. This one I have already built 2 bases, so the third one, bearing in mind this is very fast, is now 60 and 60. This means that you can get a second base up and running with this faction relatively fast. In fact, I would say very fast, a lot faster than most of the other factions ever could dream of doing. Even Chaos, well, I just can't think of anyone else that would come close. Now, it does set you back a little bit in the sort of economy side of things, and you won't be able to spam units as quickly. However, it gives you a lovely economical boost and allows a little bit of a boom. So I think that's a really neat feature, and obviously you get a bit of choice as to where you place it. But bearing in mind, if you go smacking a base down on one of these tiles, you don't know what's going to be around you. So quite often you'll find yourself surrounded by AI, and that's where the cannon of the main base really comes in handy. If we go down to its arsenal, just by clicking on it once in fact, we only get 1 attack, but it does 25 damage with 6 pen. So it's very good at taking out things like Castellans. It does alright at groups of Astartes, etc. It does have blast, so it can hit multiple group members of the target unit. It's capable of defending itself, but if you're against infantry, it gets overrun really easily as it cannot take them down fast enough. Now, what else makes the Elder unique? You'll be starting off with 3 units of Guardians, and these guys pack a hell of a punch. They have 2 AP, which is pretty reasonable for a starting unit, 2 attacks, and there's 5 of them. So we have 10 attacks doing 2.3 damage. That's a decent amount of damage for any unit. It has Assault and Bladestorm. Assault is relevant for some of the weapon upgrades. Bladestorm just gives you that extra pen and damage which you start with. Now, these guys are level 4, so this isn't necessarily the starting damage, but it's a good way of just simply showcasing that they do pack a big punch. Now, the compromise that you'll have there, the thing you have to give up for having a big punch, is some armor and health. So normally 4 armor, 14 health is what you're going to be getting with these guys, and they will die very, very easily. However, there are things that make them a little bit more effective. One of these is that they get an extra point of movement. This is with the ability known as Fleet. Very handy, very useful. Another one that's quite interesting is Ancient Doom. You get extra accuracy with all of your units, in fact, against Chaos, but you also take more damage in return. So, they certainly have their pros and cons, which is very nice. Now, if we go to Battle Focus, this is perhaps one of the bigger selling points of the faction and really changes their playstyle. What it allows you to do, and I'll skip turns so we can sort of demonstrate this in a round, but it allows you to attack and then move. So if we're going to take, for example, one of my units that can attack now, say these Howling Banshees up here, probably a good opportunity to showcase them to you. They cause fear, naturally. They also have Washout if you upgrade into it, meaning they can reduce enemy morale by 5 per turn. This means if you get multiple Banshees together, they cause a hell of a lot of problems for the enemy. But most importantly, what you can do here is attack and then move. Moving will consume all of your movement, and attacking will be your only attack, as per most factions. But what it means is that you can attack an enemy, move out the way, move someone else in, and then attack again. This means you can get far more attacks per turn if you have a lot of short-range units at least. So it is an incredibly powerful ability. Now, the other thing that makes the Banshees good, they have AP4, which is pretty decent for the power sword. Relatively low damage, which makes sense given the high AP, but they get the Shuriken Pistol as well, which does 1 attack but 2.3 damage. So they get a nice little combination of anti-armor, anti-infantry, and there's 7 of them. So they're pretty decent, and they've got decent AP. They'll take down most things relatively well. They're a nice unit. They again have the extra movement, they have all of the extra doodahs that Elder have, and it's probably worth mentioning that when Elder die, they give you energy back, which is very nice. Now, hero-wise, we should give them a little bit of a highlight as well. Here we are casting a psychic ability. This is our Farseer Skyrunner, and we just use the ability Mind War. Now what this does is it calculates the difference in terms of your morale versus theirs, and you do damage based on it. You also have Doom, which increases the amount of damage an enemy takes. These will both obviously consume your action. Aside from that, your damage is kind of okay-ish. It's not particularly great. You're mainly going to be flying around using this guy as a psyker, but you do get Jinx, and most importantly, you get the Rune Armor, which is 50% invulnerable damage reduction on top of the hero reduction. So it's actually one of the most tanky guys in the game. He's only got 8 hit points, 8 armor, sorry, 10 hit points, 8 armor, but you give this guy some extra bits and bobs. You give him the Zothide Jerkin, you give him Adamantium Vest. He's incredibly tanky and very hard to take down. Probably on par with some of the Astartes heroes, which is actually kind of nuts when you think about it. So looking at the Overwatch, even in cover, we do take a fair bit of damage there. And this is one of my tips, perhaps, for playing this faction. Don't go charging forward with your weak units. Use Howling Banshees to go first and explore. They are immune to Overwatch, so they won't be taking any damage. They can attack, then you know what's there, then you can send your weak guys in and go and check it out. Now we have Wave Serpents too. They're also pretty cool. They have some reasonable damage. They're a troop transport, but it is pretty decent damage for a troop transport. Probably on par with an infantry unit. They also get Serpent Shield every 5 turns, which is lots of attacks and lots of damage as well. So that's a really nice way of just getting a bit of spike damage out. Very cool. And again, I've done my attack. I'll do my attack here as well. And what you'll notice is if I click on them now I can't move. So you can do Serpent Shield and move, but with the vehicles they don't necessarily all get the opportunity to do so. A few other things we want to highlight. We have a little bit more of a combat utility orientated hero here. We're just going to fly him in because he has a jetpack. Well, it's not a jetpack technically, but close enough. No, he's not close enough to actually attack, but he has a power sword, which is the same as a Howling Banshees one. More accurate though. Fusion Pistol, very nice armor pen, nice for attacking heroes. And Mind Blaster, which is a Mind Blaster basically. Now he can get more attacks using Kane's Might if you put points into that. It's pretty good. He needs them because he doesn't have many. You can also get this, which gives all of your allied units in the area, which is a 3-tile radius, more accuracy, very useful. And you also have, when he gets a killing blow, nearby units get extra damage, which is pretty cool. And that, I would say, is a nice sort of balanced hero, does a bit of damage, not particularly tanky, but also has an amazing level 6 ability that doubles the amount of flat resources you get from features. Meaning all of these outposts suddenly are giving you 4 per turn. So if you've got 10, 15 outposts, you're suddenly getting 30 more resources per turn. It's a really, really good, really nice boost to the economy. He also has a Haywire Grenade, and there is another ability you will have seen in the bottom left. We'll go over that in just a moment. I think lastly, on the side of the heroes, we want to highlight the fact that we do also have a healer hiding around here somewhere. Oh, fine, we'll go to the avatar of Kane, then we'll do the healer, because he's far more interesting, right? Look at him. He's beautiful. Now, unlike my previous streams, you'll notice he can now go into the shop, meaning he's totally awesome. He gets a cool buff, which is Kane Awakened. It's just, here's some buffs that we'll give to allied units, radius 1 tile. It's pretty cool. Causes Fear. Doesn't get new abilities as he levels up because he's basically just a giant monster. But once you put him in at any shop, buy yourself some stuff, he's incredible. He's already incredible. Gets Demon, so 33% invulnerable damage reduction. He will take damage and he will die, but by the time you give him, let's say, Zothide Jerkin, Adamantium Vest, Ampler Bracers, and maybe some damagey things in combat, absolute monster. Very high penetration on both attacks, pen 10, pen 8, 3 attacks from Wailing Doom, 8 damage. So he is probably one of the highest damage units I've seen. Seems to be kind of on par with a Chaos Lord, and yet he is incredibly tanky from the word go. He's also quite expensive. He will cost double the influence of the average hero in the game. So, and I think he's also tier 4, so it takes a little while to get to. Now, in terms of our healer, you know what? I'm actually wondering if he died. Oh no, we've just left him over here. He's neglected. Well, that's a very good opportunity to showcase this. We can go to a gate. We can activate this ability, Webway Travel, and we can teleport to another Webway Gate. Marvellous. Now, it does cost influence, but it's very useful to have. So, we have Renew a Destructor, which can either do damage or heal. 2-turn cooldown, very nice to have. Ignores cover, no escape, increased damage against open top units. It's a psychic ability, and it's pretty cool, basically. I really like it. And we also have Jinx, so he can give armor or take away armor from an enemy. His other abilities can reduce enemy attacks, which is pretty cool, and reduce enemy morale. So it kind of ties in quite well with the Farseer Skyrunner. Now that's all of the heroes, and once again I think I mentioned this guy doesn't get abilities. So the Avatar of Cain is just here he is. He doesn't need abilities. He comes out the gate with them pretty much. Absolutely nuts. Now, we got a Fire Prism coming out this turn, so we'll skip forward, we'll take a look at that. I'm not going to show you every unit in the game, but that's a little bit of an overview of the Aeldari, what they're like, how they play. They're certainly very quick with their extra movement. You get some really awesome units, such as the Rangers here, which can basically take far less damage because they're shrouded. So even though they're not that tanky, they're actually one of your best sort of anti-range front lines. They have Infiltrate, which again is really useful. And they also have just all of the other bells and whistles that you normally get. The main thing about them is they have Snipe. So even though it doesn't look like the damage is amazing, trust me, against infantry, they just destroy anything. Anything armoured, Necron, Space Marines, they just tear through them. It's pretty ridiculous. We've got bikes, and bikes are squishy like all other bikes. These guys perhaps do a tiny bit more damage. They're okay. They get their usual bits and bobs. When adjacent to an allied unit, you get a bit of extra accuracy, and you get all of the other stuff too. And they get a little bit of grace, so they take less damage. Fire Prisms are obviously awesome. They get the cool stuff. You get to cycle between different weapon formats. So if you want to do large blast, hitting more infantry, or lance just to hit one, really, really cool. We've got Wraith Blades on the research. Let's have a little look at the research tree. So Tier 1, we can get Rangers, which is probably my highlight. Zirian Summon, obviously going to make your barracks work faster. Shrine of Cain, Heroes. That's pretty much it. Webway Cartographer will make taking those Webway Gates free, so it is actually kind of cool. Very useful for taking them before your allies can take them, just to screw them over, as happened to me the other night. Once again, sorry, Tony. We have Expert Hunter to make the hunters even better. We got Spirits here, Howling Banshee. Let's make your summoning building work a bit faster, the Greater Ingress. And then we move on to Tier 3. You can get a Wrath support, or sorry, a Wrath support battery. Very nice mobile platform, very good anti-infantry. Kind of does the role that the Rangers do. Does more damage to slow-moving units. It's pretty good. It doesn't have Overwatch, but its damage is very strong. It's just something I haven't got round to building yet. Fire Dragons Tier 4, so you have to wait quite a while for your anti-armor. Up until then, you're pretty much relying on Howling Banshees, so if you're not going much into tech, it'll be a while before you have a decent answer to enemy armor. And Fire Dragons are squishy compared to some factions at least, mainly because they're range 1. So they do incredible damage, but they're range 1, so they're probably going to die a lot. And that's what I found at least. Wave Serpent, you've got to wait a long time for your transport, even longer for your tanky infantry, even longer for your Fire Prism. And eventually you can get War Walkers and Wraith Knights. And they're absolutely amazing units. I would say once you get them, you're in a good place. It's kind of It's kind of in line with the Gorkanaut from the Orcs. It's just a big monstrosity that, well, it's far more elegant, let's face it. But it does the job incredibly well. I've never actually got as far enough as building a Scorpion, but it's on my to-do list. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an introduction to the Aeldari. I would recommend checking them out, as well as this game. It's had a lot more factions since launch. I respect the fact that they're not necessarily the cheapest of DLCs, but I do think that the game has got... it's expanded a lot, and I would strongly recommend checking out the workshop. You have great mods such as Too Many Voices, where basically voice lines have been added to the game, which really brings it to life a little bit more. You've also got a bunch of sub-factions, so like Astartes skins, Astartes sub-factions, or chapters, effectively. You've got a couple new factions, even, that are just in the mod workshop of things that have been bodged around to make things like Blood Angels. We've got Rebel Guard. We've got a few things in there. So look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments, but this is Hydra and this is Gladius, and I'd recommend checking it out. Take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we're going to be doing some Chaos Bane very soon.